everyone, thanks so much for joining me. In this video, we're going to cover basic seated position. Sometimes it's called Sukhasana, but it doesn't have to be any one specific position. It just needs to be a position that works best for you. So I'm going to show you some options with some props. So you might find it handy to be either maybe near a wall, have a blanket, a couple of blocks. We're just really going to focus on connecting with a position that's best for you, for your body in this moment. So we'll go ahead, scooch back here onto the mat. And the first thing to figure out is, are you going to have your knees bent? Do they comfortably bend? Do you need any kind of support? So I'm gonna have the blocks available for my knees. But the first thing I wanna just test out is, will I be able to sit taller, more comfortably if I sit on the edge of a blanket? That's something that's gonna encourage that forward tilt. Okay, that's the top of the pelvis to tilt slightly forward. Not so much that I'm pinching my back, but enough where I can explore length and space in the spine. Okay, so maybe it's in this position. Maybe you're going to bring a foot up. Maybe your legs are going to be out in front. Okay, whatever position you choose here, you want to feel like you can sit really tall. We're always exploring our very best posture. That's the best possible posture. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so if I'm sitting on here, and if my knees were still kind of hiked up because of any kind of tightness in the hips, then I could put support. Okay, there are meditation benches, meditation cushions. So if you're about to enter into a meditation practice, you want to be able to have a position that you can hold comfortably for some length of time. Okay, so for me, I don't tend to use much as far as support. Sometimes I'll sit on a block, maybe at the very beginning of the practice, but I want to explore movement in the seated position. Okay, so I just want to make sure I can feel like I'm sitting tall, shifting a little side to side. So once you have figured out your position, then we'll explore side stretches, twists, forward fold, maybe a back bend. So just kind of noticing how your body reacts to the movement in your seated posture. Okay, so paying attention here that we're sitting across the seat evenly, able to feel like we're rooting down and to be able to lengthen. Needs space. Space, the sense of security and space in the joints. And we just begin. Here maybe hands in your lap. Okay, hands at your heart, but lifting. Head of the arm bones are back, base of the skull is back, lengthening and just pausing for a couple of breaths just to assess how you feel. And I'm doing this more in a technique, okay, position rather than exploring the entirety of the pose with all the exploration of breath. But once you set it up, that's what you want to always focus on. And then maybe, right, moving, okay, inhaling, exhaling, and matching your movement to your breath and just observing the reactions within the body. What might you need to tweak to adjust? So going from there, I'll usually do that several times, really authentically matching it with my breath, which I'm speeding up here just for the sake of time, okay? And then going into a side stretch and noticing the nuances here. So I have to go back to, am I sitting evenly? Are the head of my arm bones back? Is the base of my skull back? Just so I can feel that sense of length and expansion. This always feels, for me, so good along the side. Okay, but this is a real tendency. Okay, so I always want to watch out for that. Finding length, maybe looking up, coming up. At any time, you can switch out which leg is in front if you have that positioning, okay? And then going into the other side. And again, just checking in because we're not symmetrical and we can, alter things. And so we need to really be aware of how is the breath flowing through the body, okay? And then, so side stretching, twisting, okay? And in any seated position, we're trying to make sure that the hips stay level. So as I'll twist this way first. Okay, so twisting this way, this hip is going to want to hike up. So I'm going to try to really be mindful of that. okay? And pull those thigh bones deep into the hip joints, lengthening the torso. As soon as I twist, and it feels so good in the lower half here, I might notice, okay, that the shoulders are coming up and forward. So as I pull the thigh bones deep in the hip joints, I want to pull the arm bones deep into the shoulder joints. Not so much that I create any kind of pinch, okay, but again, I'm always trying to think about space, okay, and security in the joints. So I need to have a sense of openness, but not so much so that they have no anchoring. So I anchor and I create space for the breath. You can turn your head with the twist. You can also bring your head forward to create a little bit more of that twisting sensation all the way up the spine. I'll stay with this. So several things I'll do here. I might, from my twist, go into a side stretch. So I'm doing two things at once, and it feels so, these things are so cleansing. Twists are so cleansing, okay? And I'm just then expanding on that sense of the twist. So I could do that. I could take from my twist going into a forward fold. Again, I have to monitor though, because as I'm changing up my relationship here with the body, it will try to compensate. So my seat is going to want to hike up. So I want to really pull that back and down, lengthen. It might externally look as though I'm losing some of the depth, but actually by re-anchoring, okay, backing up the pose, on the inside, I feel more depth, more juiciness in the pose. So thigh bones, arm bones, really lengthening. The chin is going to want to lead for many, many of us. Okay, the chin's going to want to lead. All right, but that cuts off the circulation, okay, that sense of ease around the neck. So by tucking the chin and pulling the base of the skull back, I'm actually able to create more length, more space for the breath. Coming into the center as an option. I always like to reach up. And then one thing that I do very often in between sides is really pause and observe the effects and observe the yearning to shake it out, to switch sides, to go right into that side too. But pausing in between sides really helps us access awareness of all those feelings and to feel also the effects of the pose. So it would be good to stay for several breaths and just observe, okay, in your practice, and observe how the breath starts to restore a sense of balance. And then we do side two. So usually in between sides, not only I do the pause, but then I do a little check-in so I can feel the difference in the sides. And for whatever reason that I typically forget, well, which one was in front, which foot was in front. So I'll probably watch this video back and go, what were you doing? Because I truly can't remember. I try to make note before I switch out my feet. But anyway, I'll balance it out later. Okay, so going into a twist on the other side and monitoring again, thigh bones, okay, arm bones, the length of the spine, because I try to monitor my own biases, my tendency to go into a back bend regardless of the position. Okay, so I'm pulling back my bottom ribs, trying to lift up the sternum, going from this twist, okay, still feeling like I'm trying to root across my seat evenly. From the twist, maybe taking a side stretch, exploring here, or twist and or, okay, into a forward fold. Noticing, right, the chin's going to want to lead. Can you see how off that looks? But when I bring the chin down and lengthen, I think it just even visibly, it has a better look to the position. You can kind of see the channels for the breath more clearly. Okay, and then coming to the center and then coming up. Another thing I like to do here is explore a back bend. So if I know I want a forward fold, as I'm cleansing here and really finding length, okay, I'll want to lift up. You can keep your seat down. If it feels okay for your body, you might lift the seat up. It just depends what feels best for your hips, knees, ankles. I like to do that. I like to lift my seat, really open up the heart, then lower the seat and take it into a forward fold. I'm going to turn just for this. In the forward fold, you're really trying to maintain length in the spine. It's so easy for this to happen. Okay, and if you're exploring movement and breath, okay, I can see an advantage to articulating the spine. But if you're really trying to get a sense of length and space for the breath, for me, it only makes sense that you would want to decrease that hunchy slouchiness, okay? So thigh bones, arm bones, length in the spine, and then encouraging more length than depth. The depth will occur if your hips allow it. If your hips resist it, I wouldn't even focus on the depth. I would just continually focus on rooting down, okay, across the seat and finding, connecting with length, connecting with a sense of ease around the neck and shoulders. And that's basic seated posture, okay, with all kinds of options, right? For the legs, bent knees, straight legs. Legs could be out to the sides. Sukhasana is typically one foot in front of the other, okay? But Sukhasana has this energy of sweetness. So we want whatever seated position we choose to feel sweet, to feel at ease within, to feel comfortable for the sake of our breath, for the sake of our state of being. So you want to find a position that you can be in and be in it well for you. I hope that this was helpful. I would love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.